Happy Monday, everybody. I'm BobbyFi back here with my man, Eric Sheets-Haber. We are going to talk real quickly about tonight's slate. It won't be that quick, actually. We're going to be going through Draftkings, some lineup builds, some potential ways to go. Obviously, a lot of information we don't have yet. Had a mixed weekend. Looked like it was going to be really good NFL-wise for me. Didn't end up being quite as good as I'd hoped. Sheets, how you doing, man? It was your birthday weekend. How was it?
It was a really, really good weekend for my birthday, and I was also able, for those of you who noticed, I was able to get a couple of things up there for you guys to look at for NBA. And I encourage you to look at, there was literally a 5-minute video I put out yesterday, kind of sort of live, that illustrated something that you can do as far as getting kind of instant leverage in the middle of a slate. I'll just let you guys kind of peek at that whenever you get a chance. But overall, results-wise, I did well in basketball yesterday. Unlike other people, I do like to play basketball on the weekends. And the NFL, I did pretty well actually yesterday. In the main one that went Saturday to Sunday, I had a couple of sneaky lineups that kind of broke me even. But aside from that, nothing great to think of. I'm kind of just kind of psyched for the NFL to be done, where it could be all NBA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm getting back more into the NBA also. It's just last week was one of those weeks where it wasn't the greatest NBA week for me. So I'm ready to get back after it tonight. Been doing much better on FanDuel than I have been on Draftkings lately for some reason. And I don't know. I think that maybe I'm overthinking a few extra things. So we'll figure it out as we go on this the particular slate. I think it's kind of an interesting slate, but obviously one that I wish we had more information on, because I think it's going to dictate a lot, and it's hard to do shows like that early today. So we'll talk about some potential pivots, some ways we can handle potential injury information that we're waiting on. Sheets, why don't we call up your screen and start with the first game here? Because I don't think there's anybody on this slate we can say at this point is like a must play overall, just simply because we don't have the information
well, yet. Not right now, but just so you know what just came through, I was already presuming this, but Drew is doubtful.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at.
Okay, that's why I was looking at this too. So I mean, I had a very, very interesting overall view of this slate. After looking at it, I do want to just give a kind of a quick overview of the slate. You're going to find that DraftKings was very soft in pricing kind of across the board today of these kind of mid-range to higher upper range guys. And, there's a lot of guys that you're going to kind of want to play, but with the relative absence of value, at least for now, it's going to be difficult to play everybody you want to play. And the interesting thing also is that all the way at the top, if AD is ruled out, which is always possible, probable, whatever, that LeBron becomes like an insanely good play, obviously. And the issue is going to be, whether you'll see like different builds that I created, like what you have to do to get like a lot of the higher mid-range guys, and what you have to do to get LeBron in or something like that and not feel as though you're missing out on stuff. And you're going to have to kind of eat some really just kind of fishy value, at least right now, to do that. And the first thing I kind of looked at for you guys to just keep in mind as we go through the slate is there is one just going to be a really, really low owned pivot off of all this, that if you can make it happen, might be a really good low owned way to go. But we'll talk about that. But I do think you're going to come across some really good plays across the board on this slate, and you're going to want to play a lot of them. And, you're going to be owned. So you're going to have to kind of figure out the best way to kind of approach it.
For sure. It is an interesting way. Yeah, there's a lot of games. We'll get to the first one right now, because we actually at least know what we think we know on half of this game. Philly at Indiana, you've got a little 213 total, but with no Embiid, and we'll get to the Indiana side in a minute, but with no Embiid, I do think it makes a lot of sense to play someone from Philly tonight. It's a little tricky to know exactly who that would be. I don't feel like it's an absolute must that you need to, but for me personally, the guys who I'm going to lean towards taking a shot on Ben Simmons. I know he hasn't put up the massive production people hope for when Embiid is out, but I still can rely on him to basically be in that 40 to 60 range, I think, almost all the time in this spot. Should be a competitive game. So I really like him. I like Al Horford. I think that he makes sense almost from a cash game standpoint, just because I feel like everything's pretty secure with no Embiid in the middle there. They're going to need a lot of minutes out of the big guy. And then Harris also, I think, is fine for either format, but I'm not as excited about it. For me, the guy I like the most for tournaments would be Simmons, and partially factoring in, I think he'll be the lowest owned also. How about you?
Right. So what I did, I have this kind of text file here on the right, and I just basically listed like a whole bunch of guys, not even that many, who just rate to be like really, really good plays. And you know, and there's a lot of them that are kind of look very, very similar to me. So for me, on the Philly side, it's just going to be those three guys, like you said, Simmons, Horford, and Harris. And I honestly can't separate. I really have no opinion of which I would prefer if I had to pick one. And not that I have to or anything, but I think all three of them look like pretty good plays. I don't know which one's going to end up being the lower owned. Right now, they all, pretty much everybody that I like today, right now, with some few exceptions, are projected to have ownership. I mean, you're not really fooling anybody today, at least yet. So Simmons
might be a guy who's a pivot off of that. I don't think he's going to have ownership. I really, I don't think don't get me wrong. He'll be in the double digits, but like this is a spot where in the past we've seen him at like 50%. Like that's not going to happen.
Well, no, because like I said, there's going to be like a lot of guys you could play.
No, but even if I think that more of it has to do with like if it was the game after Embiid was playing, if we got news that Embiid was out, people would all flock to Simmons here thinking, oh, he can get us, 50, 60, which he really can. But because he had sort of like a couple not so great, not even bad, but not so great games without Embiid lately, it's almost like people just sort of stop thinking that way, which seems to me like a great time to jump back on it.
Okay. We'll see, because there's a lot of the good thing about Simmons, like always, is that you can use him at multiple positions, because you're going to get to see some. Well, you'll see some good values at guards throughout the day, and there are also some good values at small forwards and two. You'll see, like when we go through like all these games, I'm going to like 20 guys. You know what I mean? Like, so we'll see what happens. In Indiana, same thing as always in the last like month, right? I mean, is Brogdon in or is Brogdon out? I mean, it's been kind of weird, I don't think he's played since New Year's Eve, right? He came in and he was struggled, and he came out of the game really fast, and then he had a back spasms, and then his back was fine apparently, and then he had these illnesses. Is this the first year for you that you've seen, by the way, all these illness warnings? You know what I mean? I don't remember this being a thing.
It happened a lot last year as well. It seems to be increasing every year, and it's interesting because like we're supposed to be healthier as like a species, you know what I mean? But it does feel like this time of year, with the flu season, that everybody's sort of getting it in the NBA and in real life as well.
It's pretty weird, but in any case, Indiana, if he plays, I'll think about using him. I'll probably be a good value. I like to think that if he plays, that he can play at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, again, you have to keep watch out for is Sabonis if he sits again. The one take I heard that made me think he's going to sit, and it doesn't really matter because it's going to be an early game. We're going to know anyway, but it's good to be prepared. Is even though it was, they sent him for an MRI and it was negative, whatever. Whenever you're dealing with a knee and they're bothering to send you for an MRI, I have a weird feeling they might err on the side of caution and hold him out again. But again, that's just me speculating. It doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? Because we're going to know beforehand. And if he's out, you can certainly go back to Turner again, except they priced him up pretty good, So I don't know if I'm going to do it. That's really the way I'm approaching this. And again, if Brogdon's out, you have to go back again to either McConnell or TJ Warren, or Aaron Holiday as possible plays, both here and on FanDuel. We'll get to FanDuel another time. But, same injury situation for Indiana as always right now.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to know. That's the simple answer. I think that TJ Warren, Jeremy Lamb, Aaron Holiday, TJ McConnell are all interesting if there's no Brogdon and Sabonis, or if there's just no Brogdon even. Jeremy Lamb and TJ Warren might be the ones who get overlooked a little bit too much in this spot. And if both those guys are out, I think that they'll get some ownership, but I think that they're worth playing. I also think that Holiday and then obviously McConnell would become definitely somewhat in play, as well as Miles Turner, although I'm not as in love with the Turner play against this front line as I was the other night. Anyway, I think we can move on to the next one if you're ready.
Yep. All right, so New Orleans, Detroit, 225 plus total. Small spread for now. Drew has been, I would say ruled out, but he's been listed as doubtful, which is code for he's out, I presume. So there's a couple of things I wanted to mention about this game, both individually and in context of the slate. Ingram was going to be a good play even if Drew was in, and Drew being out. I mean, it's kind of tough to not play him or not at least rate him as an extremely strong play. And I'm going to get back to New Orleans in a second. And then, like on the Detroit side, Andre Drummond, he rates to be a very, very good play at 10-3. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then Derrick Rose has been playing 30 minutes every night plus. So he's going to rate to be a good play, especially in this up-pace matchup and all that. The guys I wanted to kind of ask you about that to me are going to be really important is number one on the New Orleans side, Jackson Hayes, if Favors is out, which I'm presuming him out for now, and or Detroit, this Svi dude, okay, because these two guys are going to be two of, at least right now, two of the kind of 3, 4, 5 values that people are going to be finding in optimals and people are going to be looking at. And I think it's important to figure out what kind of confidence you have in them, because again, if you're going to pay up for some of these guys you want to pay up for, it's kind of gross to do that unless you try one of these guys. So the two guys I want to at least think about or spend some time on is this, or at least get your opinion on, is Hayes on the New Orleans side and Svi on the Detroit side.
Yeah. Well, just so basically, Svi is like, it's the same play he always is. No one usually plays him, but then everyone's going to want to play him because he's playing against New Orleans, which makes sense. Like the guy's put up 20 or more in 6 out of 7 at 3,200 certainly appears to be a good value. I definitely think I want to have some exposure to him. I like, Drummond and Rose, but I like the matchup, but I don't feel like you're getting like any special discount on them. It feels weird with Drummond's going to probably smash tonight, but like he can smash and not really even barely get there. Like this is not, I don't know. I'm sort of stuck on where I want to feel with Drummond right now. I would say I would maybe be right near the field, but like we've got some guys potentially in spend up Slater. Whereas if one of LeBron or Davis doesn't play, the other one becomes that much better of a play. So I'm sort of like just in a wait and see mode on the Detroit side. Just basically to figure out what I think is going to happen with the Lakers, because that's the other spend ups that I'm most interested in. And then I just love the New Orleans side of this game, so it kind of makes me want to run it back. But I'm going to be all over Brandon Ingram, Lonzo, Josh Hart. I'll even have exposure to, and then I do think Jackson Hayes is firmly in play. Potentially even regardless of what happens with Favors. I know it sounds weird, but like he's still been getting the minutes even in games where Favors, like the last game Favors played in, he played 30 minutes. So I'm not saying that it's a guarantee that he would, but I think he's definitely a really interesting tournament play either way. But obviously if Favors is out, he becomes chalk. And I think he, for very good reason, certainly should have to be on the court quite a bit against Drummond here tonight. And he definitely would be a guy who I'd be looking at as, one of the better values. I actually like that he's priced up a little bit, so he's not going to be quite as expensive. But we really need to know, what's happening with Favors for sure, because it does open up some other things in this game potentially. The one thing, no matter what, though, is I think that Lonzo and Ingram are two of the top plays on the slate, and they're guys who I'm going to have exposure to in like almost all my lineups.
You're gonna get lower ownership on Lonzo than you might think, by the way.
I know that. I always do. So I don't.
So two things before we leave this game. One is if Favors is out, 2 possible just dart throws. Maybe it won't be that much of a dart throw. Is Okafor at 3K? If there's no Favors, Jackson Hayes can certainly either be bad or get into foul trouble pretty easily. And the other one, they wanted to do something different. I mean, he has gotten some minutes recently. You can go to Melly if you feel like it. You know what I mean? Again, these are just like really, again, it's a tough slate to find value. So if you want a dart throw, I just kind of throw those guys in there. Of course, only if Favors is out. The other thing that I would say before I forget is to go back, when we go back to this game, we go back to the slate overview later. The 3 lineups that I kind of put up here, I put them up here for a reason. Like one of them jammed in LeBron and, it showed you what you kind of had to do to get him in with like multiple value guys. Another one did not jam in LeBron and only had to go one value guy. And another one didn't play any cheap value guys at all, right? And the reason I bring that up is again, you know, whether it with AD is out and LeBron becomes, you know, 40, 50% owned, which he probably could or should be, I feel as though, and again, is that AD could end up being that guy at lower ownership than he should be, because let's face it, who's going to play him at 10-3 over LeBron at 9-4 or whatever LeBron is if AD is out? I have this weird feeling that could be something that would be pretty cool to have under your belt when if it's 62-29 at the half in that Laker game. You know what I mean? So again, I'm really projecting a lot of different
to
things.
clarify though, he's cheaper than LeBron actually.
I got AD at 10-3.
He's 9-4 on DraftKings.
AD?
Hold on. Yeah.
So.
Oh, no, he's 9-4.
That is very strange.
Yeah.
Oh, he's 10-3, Bobby.
What are you looking at here? Anthony Davis?
No, AD Andre Drummond, Bobby.
I've never heard anybody call him Andre Drummond AD before. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going with AD Anthony Davis is what I thought you were talking about.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like Andre Drummond in this spot. Because, like I said, I mean, if AD is ruled out and LeBron at 9, who's going to play AD at 10-3 over Drummond at 10-3 over LeBron at that price? And, you know, he is in a smash spot. And if he puts up a big number, and you know, and it's Lakers 58-35 at the half, you're gonna kind of want to have that AD that Drummond number in there. So again, that was just the thing I brought up before the show. We'll think about that later if you want.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay, so Chicago and Boston, there were actually two plays that I liked in this game. First of all, from the even though it's only a 216 total or something, there were a couple of things I kind of liked. First of all, Tice has been ruled out, so Cantor he's not looking to be that great a play, but he certainly gets a bump, and he'll probably be in play a little bit. But that's one thing to kind of throw out there. The guy I really like on the Boston side of this is going to be Gordon Hayward, and I don't know how chalky he's going to be. Again, Jaylen Brown, all these guys look pretty decent. You know, Jaylen Brown and Kemba, and even Tatum a little bit. But Hayward will be my favorite. And Chicago, I have no problem just taking another shot, playing Levine again, because you know he just always seems to do it. And Markkanen would be my next guy. So again, these I don't think are as good a plays as some of the others, but I certainly feel as though these could be some of the lower owned guys. So I'm going to take a shot probably with Hayward, with Levine, and Markkanen. Again, they're going to be low owned. They're not the superstar plays, but these are the guys I like in this game.
Yeah, I really like Kemba. I just feel like he's getting to that price and no ownership where, look, the matchup's not great. The Bulls have actually been really good against point guards. With Kemba, though, it's more about his shot getting going. So if you're going to play this game stays close and wanting to run it back with somebody from the other side, which I think makes some sense, partially due to pricing and usage with Wendell Carter out. But I think that it would be Kemba is the guy I'm most interested in, followed by Cantor and then Jaylen Brown. I do think Cantor is really strong, like a really strong play here, and I don't think he's going to get much ownership. It's just this guy is the epitome of a tournament play. He should get a million. Like he should have a double-double here all the time, and his double-doubles are can be like 20 and 20. Like, and he can do that in 25 minutes. Anytime you see Cantor and he's got above 24 minutes on his projected minutes, if he's not 6K, I think that he's just the guy you want to try and get some exposure to. So Cantor, Kemba, just both price point plays that I really I want to target. Cantor more just because he's going to get the usage actually, but I really like the prices on all these guys. I'm not as interested in Hayward, but I get it. Like, I'm fine with it. I think I would rather go Jaylen Brown myself, but yeah, I definitely think one of Kemba or Cantor are the way to go from that side. And then on the other side, I think that you run into, like, again, it's good. It's the prices on Satoransky and Markkanen are especially appealing because I don't know if they've fully accounted for potential usage without Carter. So I could see that. I don't know. I could see them being strong plays. I also think Daniel Gafford is interesting depending on how they decide to go with the front court. Like 4K, he could get minutes against Cantor there. He's, if he's going to play 26 minutes, definitely sort of interesting, but mostly the guy I'm sort of leaning towards here, just being the normal guy. We play a little bit more Levine than the field does every night.
Yeah, this is my birthday play. When not one of them, when I said if you wanted to, you could project that Gafford maybe gets a few more minutes because he has to be in against the AD, and he did pretty well. He had 28 points, not bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same necessity today, but yeah, he plays well.
Certainly not the same necessity, but the minutes, if they're there, if he's playing, if he continues to play, like he's been pretty good. So I think they might give him some minutes. If he ends up squeaking his way into a double-double, you're sitting pretty. So no ownership on these guys, and I think they're all interesting. I do think that like guys like Satoransky, and even though they hasn't shown out yet, they should benefit without Carter, Satoransky and Markkanen especially. But we haven't really seen those big games yet. But I still think that you could see one tonight. So I like the idea of playing maybe one of those guys, but again, not like extreme priorities on the Chicago side.
Okay. All right. Oklahoma, Minnesota is one of my favorites. You know, first of all, from the Oklahoma City side, from the Oklahoma City side, the top four are just the same four I always look at are going to be Adams and Schroeder and Paul and Orishé. They all project really well. They're in a really good matchup, which is part of why they project really well. Again, I don't want to double count, but as Bobby likes to always give a little bit of an extra boost to the anti-Minnesota lineups anyway. So I like all four of those guys. I wouldn't play all four together. Obviously, I wouldn't play three of the guards together, but I really like all of them. And again, we're presuming that Towns is out for the purpose of this, just because. I mean, I just presume he's out. I just presume he's out for a while, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah.
And then on the Minnesota side, the guy it's the enigma because he's the top projected guy, and I was really, really heavy on him last time he played also. Not last time he played, but last time I played him, actually, was 2 games ago, was Andrew Wiggins. And 2 games ago, he was just killing it. He had 39 points like halfway through the third quarter, to the point where they just blew out Portland. The game log the game score doesn't appear that way, but that game was over midway through the third quarter, and everybody sat. I was really tilted because I had Wiggins and Lillard like all over the place, and neither of them got into the fourth quarter. So he was great then, but then the next game came back, and he was, played 25 minutes and was 3 for 13, 1 for 7 from 3 or whatever. So, he's not he's not a guy you can ever have confidence in. But, if I am going to play a stack, I'm certainly not going to do one without him. So that would be my first attempt is to go after this game in that way. The other guys on Minnesota are going to look a lot better on FanDuel, I have to say. So we'll get to that later. Like Shabazz Napier is like 3,500 on FanDuel, I think, or something like that. And Jiang is going to be like, again, 4,400 on FanDuel. So on DraftKings, I don't know if I would go to any of these guys. Teague, Covington, those would be the guys I would go to. What about a Kogi at 3,300? If you're looking for value. I mean, why not stick him in there? So, and then there's Culver, who's been playing well. So there's guys you could throw in, and maybe in a stack. I don't have to worry too much about who projects well. I just want to throw a couple of guys in. So this would be my first shot, actually, is to play a couple of these OKC guys, Wiggins, and maybe one other Minnesota guy, and just kind of take a shot.
Yeah, I like it. I think that for me, it's on the Minnesota side. It's clearly like Wiggins is my top guy. I like the idea of playing Teague. I know it's speculative. The 4.9K, I just feel like he's going to have enough upside to get there enough of the time. I know he hasn't had the crazy minutes. He did play 29 against that in Memphis in that one game. They play a 3-guard lineup all the time, so I think that you might see more of him and Napier together. Just because of the way that Oklahoma City plays small. So you could end up seeing T with some more minutes out there. Of course, Okogie or Culver could easily end up with those minutes as well. So it's kind of tricky with all the wings back here to project minutes. But I think I think mostly on the Minnesota side, it's going to be Wiggins for me with a little bit of Teague and Covington. And then on the other side, I think that your priority for me is Schroeder would be the number one, followed by Chris Paul, by Shea. And then I have a little less interest in Steven Adams than I think the field's going to. And I have a little more interest, I think, in Danilo than the field is going to.
Yeah, somebody I know had a really, really sharp line. I would say sharp because I never would have done it. That day where Gallinari was doubtful, it was like definitely going to be out, and they announced him in like the last minute or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
This guy played him at like 0.3% and had a really, really strong lineup. I don't know if I can even do it, but that was I guess what you have to do sometimes. Okay, I mean it seems like a pretty straightforward situation. I mean, high total, low spread game with guys that you like, so I'm in there.
Yeah, it's weird, and also like the minutes lately, they played in some weird games, so I just feel like there's a little bit of value to be had here in this spot, especially for like everybody on OKC seems a little bit too cheap.
All right, so Charlotte Portland is going to be one of the chalkier spots, at least on one of the sides of the game. So I think these Portland guys are just really, really they're underpriced. Everybody knows it. They're going to be chalk and but let's go over them. So first of all, Whiteside at 8,200 is kind of a joke. He's going to get a lot of ownership. Maybe the upper respiratory illness fear keeps ownership down. I doubt it. Then there's Lillard, who projects pretty well. You know, again, he's one of these guys on my list. It's just kind of like if I had to have top 20 plays, he's certainly one of them. If not even a shorter list. And McCollum down to 6,100. I mean, certainly he projects really, really well at that price. Carmelo will be next, but I don't even need to go down to him. And then the same decision you always have to make. Like, and again, on a slate like this, when you want value, do you suck it up and get frustrated watching Kent Bazemore play, you know, at 3,500 or 3,600? Even though this hasn't worked out for me in the last couple of games, I still maintain the same thing. That if you're going to bother doing that, just pay 3,400 for Simons and give yourself a little bit of upside. You know what I mean? So I would, if you are going to play one of those value guys, I maintain that Simons would be the better one. Not to say you have to play either of them, but that would be my opinion there. And then again, on the Charlotte side, two guys are kind of rating to be decent. One is Devontae Graham, who we played before, and you could certainly make that case that, you know, if the game stays close, it's going to be because Graham is doing well, and then you get that Graham versus Lillard up and back thing, which would be kind of neat to see. And then the other value guy that I bring up is Zeller. So you're going to have to talk to me about that. I think Biyombo might have come out of the game or was hurt a little bit. I'm not sure, but either way, Zeller at 3,800 is projecting to be one of those value guys you have to consider on a slate that you might need some. So that's really my opinion. I think all those Portland guys are really, really good. They're all going to be highly owned. I don't know how many of them I could play together, you know, if they're both all going to be highly owned, unless I run it back with someone from Charlotte who's not highly owned. And I think that even then Graham's getting ownership too, even though I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking things. Like these Portland guys look really, really good. You should find a way to play them. But they're just, you know, other top 15 type plays in this mid-range that, you know, you're going to kind of want to play if you can.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that I like this game, and if you want to play that it stays close thing, I like both Rozier and Graham, but I far prefer Graham. I think that this is a really good spot for him, actually. I'm still not sold on Portland as a defensive team in any way. I would like to play these forwards, but the minutes, you know, get a little bit. It sort of can be anybody in a given night, but I don't mind PJ Washington certainly at 5K seems to be the better value than Bridges. But I think they're all interesting, and I don't know where the minutes would go. I would think if I was them that Bismack would probably get as many minutes until he fouls out against Whiteside. But I also think that I could see him getting in foul trouble and Zeller taking over. And Zeller also offers some difficulty for Whiteside on the other end because he could stretch the floor. So I think that, you know, having a little bit of exposure to both those guys makes some sense, but I don't think you want to go crazy with either of them. I think that it's mostly going to be the Graham Rozier route. Maybe if you wanted to throw in a Bridges or a Washington, I think that certainly makes sense, because I do think that the Portland side makes a lot of sense. And I would rate it as Whiteside 1, McCollum 2, Carmelo 3, Lillard 4. And then I would say Bazemore and Simons are pretty similar. I would probably lean a little bit more towards Bazemore than you would, but I do think he'll have more ownership. So Simons is probably the better tournament play if your lineup's chalky. But I definitely think you want to get some exposure to this Portland side against pretty weak Charlotte team. Always have some blowout risk, but that actually kind of makes me even like Graham better. Like, I just feel like he's going to have to be gunning tonight. Same with Rozier. So hopefully they can sort of keep that one close here and make this a nice little game stack. I actually do like this game. It probably would be my second favorite game on the slate. But yeah, I mean it is going to be the chalkier spot.
Hey, random take, and then I wanted to get your opinion on something. So you were, I think I might have done this one on my own, or maybe I made a comment with you on it, but before, it's so funny, like before that Whiteside, I think, was ruled out of a game or something like that, I had commented that during the Toronto game, I just kind of noticed that he was just kind of, even though he ended up having a good game, he was starting to become last year's Hassan Whiteside a little bit. He stopped running down the court. He was a little lazy on defense. He was trying to just get his swats and, whatever it is. So, and then the funny thing is, the day after I noticed that, they mentioned that he had an upper respiratory illness or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then, he had he had a really good game against Minnesota. It was that same game, by the way, that the game got just totally out of hand. He didn't come back in the game. But the reason I bring that up is as we get near where the trade deadline happens and stuff like that, mm-hmm. I've heard like kind of conflicting things about the way teams handle it. Like on the one hand, I hear people say that if a guy is kind of on the trade block, they'll display him, they'll showcase him, right, to show how good he is. But then on the other hand, I hear some people say, well, I want to rest him so he's not hurt if I want to trade him.
Yeah,
where do you come
to speak about that stuff generally is always a mistake because it's just completely different by each circumstance. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But it's too hard to say generally,
Okay. So, okay, I'm with you.
All right, let's move on to Orlando, Sacramento.
Okay. I had nobody from Orlando in this game. Vucevic, if I had to, would be my best play, but I think I just can find better plays at that price tag throughout the slate. So I'm probably not going to have much of an interest on the Orlando side. On the Sacramento side, my favorite play is going to be De'Aaron Fox. Just he rates to be just as good as some of these other 7,300 guys. He rates to be just as good as Devontae Graham, for example. I just got to have him up here. Mm-hmm. And I got certainly no problem playing De'Aaron Fox. Marvin Bagley, I hear they're going to play, but there's just no way he gets enough minutes coming back off of this that I'm going to be interested in him, at least on DraftKings. So I would play De'Aaron Fox if I had a one-off I wanted to play. And that's, I guess, pretty much it. I'm not going to ever tell you not to play Buddy Hield, but I would say that De'Aaron Fox would be my preferred play from this game.
Yeah, I'm not as interested in this game either. On the Orlando side, I do kind of like Vucevic a bit, and I don't mind taking a shot on Gordon, although he's been frustrating. On the Sacramento side, I agree Fox is the most interesting. I think Hield and Bjelica are also both strongly in play. I'm curious where Bjelica ends up ownership-wise because I think he's going to be lower than where sites are projecting him now, and I think he could end up being a really, really, really solid play against a team that plays big, but he can also stretch him out. Like he could be – this could be a Bjelica spot tonight. So he's probably my next interest behind Fox. And then I like Hield because of the price. So I like all of those guys. I'll be ahead of the field on each of them, maybe with the field on Hield. But I really like Bjelica and Fox quite a bit.
All right. Last game, Cleveland against the Lakers. Again, big question is whether AD plays. He had suffered a glute bruise or whatever a few games ago, and he's been sitting out. I was going to say you could speculate on what's going to happen, but I think it's worth a little bit of speculation. I think that this is a type of game and game environment that I think they'd be more inclined to sit him if it were close between whether he should play or not. I mean, you'd like to think they'd be able to deal with Cleveland without him. I mean, they crushed two teams, one of them with no LeBron or AD. Okay?
Yeah, and that was in OKC, by the way.
I mean, that was amazing. Right? Yeah. So I'm not presuming, but I guess they'll sit him. LeBron's going to be a good play whether they sit him or not. And if they sit him, he's going to be both projecting through the roof and, 60% owned. So I have my own take on it, but we'll get back to it in a second. The other guys, if in fact AD sits, are going to be the same guys before. It's going to be Rondo, 3,900. I'll probably play him again. I don't think he's as much of a lock this time as he was when LeBron was out. Okay.
But we don't know about LeBron. We keep saying this like as if we know. We have no idea what's going to happen.
LeBron, you think he might sit?
No, I'm just saying. Like, I mean, is there a path where both of them sit? Yeah, there's definitely a path where both.
I mean, he is listed as probable, but
okay. Of course. I'm gonna bet I bet that he plays, but I'm just not gonna I think there's some real value in playing this late night game and trying to find ways to mix things around depending on who plays.
Okay. And then there's Kuzma, and then McGee if AD sits, Howard if AD sits, I suppose. But for me, again, I'm not the one to predict blowouts or whatever it is, but you know what? If he's 60% owned, I'm probably not going to play him. I just feel as though I could find between all those other mid-range guys, I think I could find enough points to at least put myself in a decent chance where at least there's a decent enough probability that I'm gonna be able to outscore him. That's just what I'm gonna do. Nobody else has to. But again, that kind of ownership for me is like playing, high price wide receiver. You know what I mean? Just because of the minutes, I think the minutes downside from there. That's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. On the Cleveland side, yeah, hey, I mean, how can you not like sex and love? You know what I mean? Like, how can you not have a love sex, you know what I mean, mini stack like that? I mean, it's just so beautiful, right? So I think those two look great. I do. I think I would play one of them. I would play both of them. And I'll tell you this, if I am going to play LeBron, I am 100% going to play both of those guys. I don't know if I'm going to go to Osman, although he'd be the next guy I would go, and maybe even Garland. But I think Sexton projects pretty nicely. I think Love projects pretty nicely. And I don't know, at 10:30, I'll probably have some of these two guys.
I mean, yeah, this is a spot where I feel like it depends a little bit on whether AD plays, that I have some interest, because I love this as a stack if AD doesn't play. Like, I really like Love and Sexton both, but I really like Darius Garland too. Darius Garland, I don't think people are onto the fact that he's actually turned a corner as a player. You look at his game log, it'll tell you 35, 33, 17, 27, 32, 34, while playing in the mid to high 30s, even 40 minutes. I think he's figuring it out a little bit. And I think people give up on these kids way too quickly. I mentioned this on another show. They talk about how terrible they are without giving them a chance. Same thing with Sexton. And regardless of what you think of them as real life players, like, the usage and everything is there enough at these prices to where they're firmly in play. So is Osman, by the way, just because the minutes at 4K, not to mention the one, the Kevin Love play. I don't know what you call it, a mini revenge against LeBron. And then they're also playing in LA where he's played college, like he's a UCLA guy. So I don't know. I think they're all interesting. And I like the idea of playing LeBron on the other side with two of or potentially even three of those guys. It depends on what happens with AD, obviously, but I think if AD's out, you speculate on, like, I would play JaVale McGee. I don't think the ownership will be quite as high as it was last time, but I still think it'll be pretty high. I would lean a little bit towards probably looking at one of the wing players, but I think I probably would just try and take a shot and hope that Rondo gets enough minutes, and that might be where I end up landing up, just because they play so many guards, Cleveland. So I'm trying to figure out exactly who would get all the minutes. If you can find it for KCP, look, these are not fun, Danny Green, but they are guys who 1 out of every 3 or 4 games are going to get you there. And if I'm going to be stacking this game, I want some exposure to one of those little fringy pieces. But mostly it's LeBron with Love, Sexton, and Garland on the other side with a little Osman.
Yeah. Again, I'll reiterate my view on that is that, again, if I play LeBron, I think I'm just going to have to I think I'm going to have to play those Cleveland guys. Not to say that he can't smash without those guys, but I just think the combination of the ownership plus plus the necessity for him to play those minutes, I think just makes it a little more necessary for me to do it. So.
Yeah, I do want to point out that even in spite of my liking for those guys, that it's a little bit frustrating tonight because Exum, I think, will be coming back, and it'll take away a few of those minutes and a little bit of the usage. In fact, if we know Exum is going to play 24 plus minutes, doesn't have a firm thing, I would say Exum makes for an interesting tournament play.
Okay. Is this going to be one of those games where Cleveland has to play? Is it just Tristan Thompson? They priced him up to 7,500. Okay.
So, a fortune. I mean, if Tristan Thompson gets in foul, nothing we're going to do with that. So,
right.
I don't think. I mean, unless we heard Tristan Thompson was out, then we would load it.
Yeah. So again, for me, I just really feel as though this slate again, and even going through it, I'm just convinced it's very similar to what I first thought, is that you could play a lot of those guys, those 7,500 to 8,500 guys, but even if you want to play a few of those, I think you are going to have to make a decision of whether to play these Svies and these what McGee if you know McGee if AD sits, and Cody Zellers and guys like that who aren't. Look, I'm not saying Svi's not a good value, whatever it is, but I mean he's very scoring dependent, and he's busted recently. Also, it's not like he's a lock or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel as though it's I feel that's going to be a very, very difficult decision to make. And even if you get that right, I mean, which of these mid-price guys do you like? I mean, and how are you going to construct them? I think it's a very kind of a sneaky, tough slate, because what's happening is, again, you look through this DraftKings wise, you can find a zillion good plays to make, and I think those slates are very, very difficult, especially with the lack of value, but it's challenging, because what you can do is you can make up for that in creating better correlated lineups, right? And even like you said, just one little kind of monkey in the wrench, like one little Anthony Simons thrown in somewhere, like one, I don't know, other guys, one, what's his name, Josh Okogie thrown in somewhere, like one like guy that nobody's playing that gets there or that smashes could be the differentiator, where you don't have to worry about, boy, I don't want to play, Levine at 15% or something like that. I think that just one or two kind of lower owned pivots can make this work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I don't need to worry too much, because I've got a couple guys who are pretty high on my list. They're going to be, I think, pretty low owned.
Go for it. Sure.
Yeah, I'm just going to read real quickly before we get out of here, just my interest in players. I have Brandon Ingram currently as my highest owned player, followed by LeBron. Then Whiteside. Then you get a combination of Whiteside, McCollum, Schroeder, Simmons, Devontae Graham, Derrick Rose, De'Aaron Fox, Andrew Wiggins. They're all in the same range, along with Sexton as well, and Lonzo Ball. Lonzo being one of the cheaper guys, one of the lower owned guys I think I'm going to be playing a lot of tonight. And we'll see what happens with Cantor, but I'm actually getting to be higher on Cantor as well. I could see him just smashing in very limited minutes against the Chicago team that just cannot rebound at all.
So what I would say is that my last take, I guess, is going to be this, is that, like, I'll go back to, you want to call it a bad take, go back to a kind of a wild take, whatever, is I think that if LeBron, again, is by himself with no AD, I think I'm going to do one of two things. I think I'm going to either fade him and just go mid-range guys with no value and just hope that these guys all hit, like something like this, like with a Sexton, McCollum, like, you know what I mean? Don't really get up to the top mid-range guys, but I don't have to deal with any of the value guys, really. Or the other thing I might do, like I said, is just pay up for Drummond, which I'm telling you, if you get the right environment there also, they've proven that they'll play him 50 minutes if they have to, and I could run him back with like an Ingram and one of your other New Orleans guys, and I could put a number up there at I think is going to be low ownership. I don't know who's going to play him. I don't know how you can. When you have LeBron at it, as a much better option.
People are going to play him, though.
You think so?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Not as much as LeBron, but.
Well, no, they're not going to play anybody as much as LeBron.
Yeah. All right, man. Hey, well, we got another show. I'm going to be doing a show with Jack Hendrickson, winning 24/7, coming up next. And then me and Cheats are going to be back at it in a little bit. But,
wait, can I make a prediction?
Yes.
So I'm going to predict that Jack likes Damian Lillard.
Shocking.
That's just me. That's just my crystal ball. Okay.
He likes Damian Lillard. Somehow he likes Jimmy Butler, who's not even on the slate. That's what we know about Jack. All right, guys. Yeah, we're looking forward to that one. For Sheets, I'm Bobby. We're out of here. Good luck tonight. Hit us up with any questions, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Talk to you soon, fellas.